I'm Cinda Rushton, Bunting Professor of Clinical Ethics at the Johns Hopkins University Berman Institute of Bioethics and School of Nursing. And I'm joined today with my colleague, Dr. Lori Leach, who is the founder and director of Threshold Global Works. We have been working together to create a series of videos to address some of the common issues that are coming up related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we would invite you to take advantage of looking at some of those other videos for more information about the combined work that we're doing. Today, we want to focus on how we can support clinicians who are often struggling with so many questions and a lot of burden at the end of their day, and how to make a healthy transition from work to home or wherever they go at the end of their workday, and also a template that we can use to support each other in dyads, if you want to call it resilience buddies, where two people make a commitment to each other to check in with each other each day and to have an opportunity to really honor, to notice what people are carrying, but also then to have the opportunity potentially to shift to a place that feels at a little bit more ease and may support us as we try to continue our work. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori to describe a little bit of the background on this process.
All right, thank you, Cinda, and I'm glad to be doing this with you. I kind of wish we'd done this a lot sooner, because I know that healthcare workers are really on the front lines. There are all kinds of war-related terms being used to describe what people are up against, and for good reason. And so what we're going to be doing is creating a process, a transitional process, as Cinda was saying, and it's based in a model that I developed called the social resilience model. And it's a neuroscience-based model about ways that each one of us can learn how to better regulate our mind-body system, really how to regulate your nervous system when you get stressed, how to even know the quality of your stress, what are the details of it, and ways of bringing yourself back into a zone of higher functioning, higher quality of life that we call the resilient zone, or the R zone. So this concept of the R zone means that it's a zone of functioning where your nervous system rhythm, which is generally when everything is going okay, and when you're in that zone, you can still be sad or mad or glad, but you're in it in a degree that you have your wits about you, so that your thinking is clear, you're able to respond to what happens on your unit or in your life in a way that serves you and the other people that matter to you. It reduces the number of toxic stress chemicals circulating in the body, which has been a major concern of mine over the course of this pandemic for first responders of all kinds. So this transitional process that we're developing, and we'll talk to you about today, takes all of those kinds of neuroscience-based ideas about how to regulate your nervous system for optimal functioning into account in a very brief little 15-minute end of shift huddle.
So in being able to take these ideas into practice, we know that most of you who are working in hospital settings have some regular times that you gather together. And our thinking is that we thought this process might be very useful at the end of the day. Maybe you call it your end of the day huddle. And a time when all the team members gather together, and it's a specific way to help us begin that transition so that we can leave behind, hopefully, some of the burden that we've carried during the day and begin to arrive home with a little less of a weight. So I'm going to ask Lori to talk about what are the specifics of doing a end of the day huddle.
Okay. Yeah, so one might ask if this is really a debriefing that we're talking about. And the old version of debriefings were actually proven through research not to work. And the reason that they didn't work is because the typical format was that people sat in their group and each member of the group went around and described what they saw or heard or experienced that was really creating a lot of angst for them, a lot of suffering. And one by one, people would go around the group and they would say that. And then at the end of the debriefing, they would leave, often in high states of despair and dysregulation. And it was actually shown in the research that used control groups who received no debriefing and the debriefing groups that the control groups were doing better, which of course was not the intent. But it's a simple correction to make, which is that when we do a group that's in this case, we're calling it the end of the shift huddle or the end of the day huddle, it will be very specifically organized so that what you don't do is go in and hear about everything horrible that happened in everybody's day. So the format is going to be brief and very practical. It's intended to build a sense of being seen by you and your coworkers and relationship, because even though in the situations in hospitals and clinics today, you're crowded with people, there can also be an acute sense of loneliness that happens as you're doing your work. It's the tension is so high and you're so keenly focused on what you need to be doing. And so this is intended to be brief, focused on your own resilience, a way of cutting out the stress chemicals, boom, as if you had a pair of scissors and you could cut the hose that's feeding your system toxic chemicals, and is unit-based, that builds that kind of sense of cohesiveness. And as Cinda's saying, pairs of you could do this. You can even do this with people at home. The format is we'd start the group with just a little chance for people to assemble and settle. And that settling uses two of our SRM skills, grounding and sensory tracking. And grounding is an ancient skill. It's used in lots of practices where the focus of grounding is some kind of sensing into the support of a solid surface against your body. So for example, if I were to sit back in my chair, I could put all my attention to the support of the back of that chair against my back or against any part of my body, or I could also focus on the support of the floor under my feet. So you can ground up against a wall, you can ground when you're standing, you can ground when you're seated. Nobody needs to know you're even doing it. You do it with your eyes open and you focus all of your attention on the support of those solid surfaces against your body. And then the second skill we use with everything else in SRM is called sensory tracking. And because nervous system regulation is done at the sensation level, not at the cognitive level, not at the emotional level, but at the sensation level, then you track the sensations in your body, your own sensory experience. And most of us don't even have a vocabulary for that level of experience. So we start with things like, what do you notice about your breath? Is it shallower as you sense into the stability under your feet or against your back? Is it neutral, about the same? Or does it get faster, slower, about the same? Same with your heart rate. It's harder to tell your heart rate, but you can sense into, if it's pounding, you'll know that. And then as you do the grounding, does your heart rate get a little slower? Does it stay about the same? Or does it even speed up more? What's going on inside your body at the sensory level? So sensory tracking and grounding are how we start out, paying attention in that way. And then the second step is very simple because this is a 15-minute group and it's going to be very efficient for you. The second step is that each person in the group goes around and names one difficult experience they had during the day, out of many, I bet, but just one. And then they also name something positive that happened, either something that brought them a sense of gratitude or even joy or of sense of purpose. So you name that as well. And each person in the group goes around and names the hard part and then the part that was more positive, the more restorative part. And when you listen to each other's restorative parts, the positives, you again use sensory tracking. You see what you notice inside your body. What about muscle tension, for example? Does your muscle and tension get tighter? Does it get looser? Do you see your shoulders drop, or does your jaw loosen a little bit? Or does that pit in your stomach start to loosen up a little bit? Paying attention at the sensory level is a powerful way to change the whole climate inside your body, to support your immune system, and to know when you need to shift. Because if what you're noticing in your body is something not so good for you, you can also shift your attention away from it. And so that's one of the reasons why, as the group is going on, we name not just one negative thing, or hard thing that's happened during the day, which is where our amygdala, our little smoke detector, goes, but we also name a positive. It's in the positive piece that we enhance those positive neurochemicals, we decrease the flow of poisonous stress chemicals, and you start to notice shifts in your body tension and that sort of thing. And then finally, the last piece, after everybody's had their turn and sensed into what it's like to listen to each person's positive, then you just end by going around and saying the thing that you're looking forward to as you go from work to home or from work to wherever you're going. What is one positive? And then you end by sensing into what that's like to hear each person's positive as a way of leaving. And so it's that short, not a discussion. It's not solution-based. It's very practical way of changing the climate in your body as you leave to go back to wherever you're going next.
So this is a really simple practice that we'd like to encourage you to try. And one of the things to notice about this is not about solving or fixing other people's problems. This is actually just about giving all of us the opportunity to really witness each other's experience and to tune in to what's happening. You can do this in groups. You could do it with your resilience buddy. And I really would encourage you to think about how you can use some of these practices so that you can make the transition from your workday into the next phase of whatever your life is got coming in a way that will support you, that will be able to really prepare you to meet the next challenge, but also to support you to be able to come back and do your work again. It's a place to put down some of the burden at the end of the day, and we offer this to you in that spirit. We have created a handout that goes along with this, and so when you view this video, you'll be able to download the very simple instructions that go along with this. So I want to thank Dr. Leach for joining me today, and we look forward to hearing about how you've taken this work and how it has served in some way. And thank you all so much for all you're doing every day in the midst of these really very challenging situations.